Your bones are crumbling faster than you think, and the fracture that changes everything is closer than your next birthday. Right now in Japan, 78-year-olds are moving through their mornings with a freedom that most Americans lose by 65, and the gap isn't genetics. It's 7 movements you've never heard of. Movements so simple they look like nothing, yet so powerful they're rewriting what aging means for an entire nation. Here's what terrifies me. In the United States, 1 in 3 adults over 65 will fall this year. 1 in 3. Of those who break a hip, half will never walk independently again, and 20% will die within 12 months. In Japan, those numbers are radically different, not because of medication or surgery, but because of what people do for 10 minutes every single morning before breakfast. These aren't stretches you've seen in a gym. They're not yoga, not Pilates, not physical therapy. They're movements developed over centuries, refined in villages where people expected to work their fields into their 80s, movements that treat your body like an intelligent system instead of a collection of broken parts waiting to fail. What's wild is how invisible this knowledge remains here. You can scroll health content for hours and never stumble on the specific combination that makes Japanese elders so stable, so resilient, so uncommonly free of the chronic pain that plagues American retirement. And the reason is cultural. We've been taught that aging means managing decline, that exercise after 60 is about preventing disaster, not building capacity. Japan teaches the opposite. Movement is daily medicine, not emergency intervention. Your body at 65 is not the same machine it was at 30, and trying to exercise like it is creates the very injuries we're desperate to avoid. But here's the paradox. The movements that work best for your aging joints, your thinning bones, your slower reflexes, are often gentler and shorter than what you think you need. They work with your nervous system, not against it. They prioritize balance and coordination over brute strength. And they compound, meaning 2 months of 10-minute mornings builds more durable health than 2 months of sporadic, hour-long gym sessions that leave you sore and skipping days. I'm going to walk you through all 7 movements in the order Japanese practitioners teach them, from the foundational to the most transformative. Number 7 is the one most people try first because it feels familiar. Number 2 is the one that surprises everyone because it looks absurdly easy, but recalibrates something deep in your vestibular system. And number 1, the movement that sits at the core of this entire system, is something you can do in 90 seconds that will change how your brain talks to your legs. And it's the single biggest reason why Japanese seniors fall so much less than we do. But before we go there, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and how old you are right now. I want to know who's here, because this information works differently depending on where you're starting, and I'll tailor future content to what this community actually needs. Let's begin with number 7, the movement they call Ashiyubi Taisu, which translates to toe finger exercise. You do this sitting down. You're barefoot. You spread your toes wide, then scrunch them tight, curling them as if you're trying to grip the floor. Then you spread again. Wide, tight, wide, tight. You do this for 1 minute, twice a day. That's it. Sounds like nothing, right? But here's what's happening. Your feet contain 26 bones, 33 joints, and more than 100 muscles, tendons, and ligaments. After decades in rigid shoes, most of those structures stop moving independently. Your toes forget how to splay. Your arches collapse. The small stabilizing muscles that keep you upright atrophy, and your balance suffers without you realizing it. When you fall, it's often because your foot couldn't adapt fast enough to an uneven surface, a shift in weight, a moment of distraction. Toe strength is ankle stability. Ankle stability is knee health. Knee health is hip alignment. It's all connected, and it starts in your feet. Research from balance labs in Tokyo and Osaka has shown that toe grip strength correlates directly with walking speed and fall risk in older adults. In some analyses, people with weak toe flexors are nearly twice as likely to fall compared to those with strong, mobile feet. This isn't a fringe idea. It's foundational, and the intervention is almost comically simple. 1 minute of intentional toe movement, morning and evening. I worked with a woman named Diane, 71, a retired postal worker who'd rolled her ankle twice in 18 months. She was terrified of stairs. I had her start with nothing but toe exercises for 2 weeks. No other changes. By day 10, she noticed her feet felt more awake when she walked. By day 14, she was taking stairs normally again. And she told me her calves felt stronger, even though we hadn't touched them. That's the cascade. Strengthen the base and everything above it stabilizes. The protocol is this. Sit in a firm chair, feet flat, shoes and socks off. Spread your toes as wide as you can and hold for 3 seconds. Then curl them tight and hold for 3 seconds. Do 10 rounds. That's 1 minute. If your toes cramp, slow down. If you can't spread them at all, just try. Movement will come. Do this every morning before you stand up for the day and every evening before bed. If you want to progress, try picking up a small towel with your toes or practicing on different surfaces, grass or sand, if you have access. But start simple. This is the foundation. Now here's where it gets interesting because number 6 is the movement they call kata mawashi, or shoulder circling. And it's not what you think. You're not rolling your shoulders forward and back like you learned in grade school gym class. You're standing tall, arms hanging loose, and you're rotating your shoulders in the largest, slowest circles you can manage. But the key is you're doing them one at a time with your attention fully locked on the sensation. Right shoulder, 10 slow circles forward, then 10 circles backward, then the left shoulder, same thing. The entire sequence takes about 90 seconds. And what this does is remarkable. As we age, the capsule around the shoulder joint tightens. The rotator cuff weakens. The thoracic spine stiffens. We start rounding forward, and that rounding compresses the lungs, restricts breathing, and destabilizes the neck. Frozen shoulder, rotator cuff tears, chronic neck pain, all of these are epidemic in Americans over 60, and much of it traces back to lack of movement in the shoulder girdle. In Japan, daily shoulder circling is taught as preventive maintenance. You keep the joint mobile so it never seizes. You keep the muscles firing so they don't atrophy. And you keep your posture open so your breathing stays deep. There's data from orthopedic studies showing that people who maintain shoulder mobility into their 70s have significantly lower rates of falls. And the reason is counterintuitive. When you trip, your arms instinctively shoot out to catch you. If your shoulders are stiff and weak, you can't extend fast enough or absorb the impact safely, and you're more likely to hit your head or break a wrist. Mobile shoulders mean safer falls. I had a client named Robert, 68, former electrician, who came to me because he couldn't lift his right arm above shoulder height without sharp pain. He'd been told he'd need surgery. I asked him to do shoulder circles every morning for 30 days before making any decisions. He was skeptical. By week 2, his range had improved enough that he could reach a high cabinet. By week 4, the pain was gone. He never had the surgery. This isn't a miracle. It's physiology. Synovial fluid, the lubricant in your joints, only flows when you move. When you stop moving, the joint dries out, stiffens, and starts to hurt. Daily movement keeps the system wet. The protocol is simple. Stand with your feet hip-width apart. Let your arms hang. Focus on your right shoulder and begin rolling it forward in the biggest, slowest circle you can. Don't force it. Let gravity help. Do 10 circles, feeling every part of the rotation. Then reverse 10 circles backward. Switch to the left shoulder and repeat. If one side is tighter, give it an extra set. Do this every morning, ideally right after the toe exercise. You're working from the ground up, feet, then shoulders, building the scaffolding of stability. Here's the pivot. Number 5 is where the system starts to wake up your core, and it's called hara kokyu, which means belly breathing. You're standing or sitting, one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. You breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 counts, and you're trying to expand your belly, not your chest. Then you hold for 2 counts. Then you exhale through your mouth for 6 counts, pulling your belly button toward your spine. You do this for 5 cycles. Takes about 90 seconds, and this is the movement that people in the West misunderstand most profoundly. We think of breathing as automatic, not something you train. But your diaphragm is a muscle, and like every muscle, it weakens with disuse. Shallow chest breathing, which most of us default to under stress, keeps you in a low-grade fight-or-flight state. It reduces oxygen delivery. It destabilizes your core, and it makes every other movement less effective because your body is operating on a chronic deficit. Deep belly breathing resets your nervous system. It activates the parasympathetic branch, the rest and repair mode. It strengthens the transverse abdominis, the deep core muscle that stabilizes your spine. And it improves balance because your center of gravity becomes more controlled. There's research from Japanese university hospitals showing that older adults who practice diaphragmatic breathing daily have better postural control, lower blood pressure, and reduced fall rates. The mechanism is partly mechanical. Stronger core means better stability, and partly neurological. Slower breathing calms the system and improves reaction time. I had a client named Linda, 64, a retired teacher who was having dizzy spells and near falls every few days. Her doctor couldn't find a clear cause. I taught her belly breathing and asked her to do it 5 times before getting out of bed each morning. Within a week, the dizzy spells dropped by half. Within 3 weeks, they were gone. She later told me she'd been holding her breath without realizing it, a stress response from years of classroom chaos, and her body had forgotten how to breathe properly. Retraining the diaphragm gave her back her balance. The protocol is this: sit or stand comfortably. Place your right hand on your chest and your left hand on your belly, just below your ribs. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4, focusing on pushing your left hand out while keeping your right hand still. Hold for 2 counts. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 6, pulling your belly in. Repeat 5 times. Do this every morning after shoulder circles and any time during the day you feel stressed or unsteady. If you get lightheaded, slow down. This is retraining. Your body will adapt. Now we arrive at number 4, and this is the one that looks most like traditional exercise, but it's not. It's called koshi mawashi, or hip circling. You're standing next to a wall or a counter for light support. Feet hip-width apart. You place your hands on your hips and begin moving your hips in slow, wide circles, as if you're stirring a giant pot with your pelvis. 10 circles clockwise, then 10 counterclockwise. The key is keeping your knees soft and your upper body still. All the motion comes from the hips. This movement does something critical. Your hip joints carry your entire upper body weight every time you stand, walk, or climb stairs. After 60, the cartilage thins, the joint capsule tightens, and the range of motion shrinks. Most people develop hip stiffness without noticing until it's severe, and by then they're walking with a shuffle, which is one of the biggest predictors of falls. Hip circling maintains the full range of motion. It lubricates the joint. It activates the gluteal muscles, which stabilize your pelvis and protect your lower back. And it teaches your body to move fluidly again, which is something we lose. When we spend years sitting in chairs, there's data from geriatric movement studies showing that people who maintain hip mobility are significantly less likely to need hip replacement surgery and recover faster if they do. The joint stays healthier when it moves through its full range daily. I had a client named George, 73, a former truck driver, who had been told he needed a hip replacement within the year. He was in constant pain and walking with a cane. I taught him hip circles and had him do them twice a day, morning and night. After 6 weeks, his pain had decreased by about 60%. After 3 months, he'd ditched the cane. His orthopedic surgeon was stunned at his follow-up and told him to keep doing whatever he was doing because the joint had stabilized. George never had the surgery. This isn't always the outcome, but it's more common than you'd think. Movement is medicine, especially for joints. The protocol is this: stand next to a stable surface, your wall or countertop, with your feet hip-width apart and knees slightly bent. Place your hands on your hips. Begin moving your hips in the largest, slowest circles you can manage, as if you're drawing a circle on the ceiling with your pelvis. Keep your upper body quiet. Do 10 circles clockwise, then 10 counterclockwise. If one direction feels tighter, add an extra set. Do this every morning after belly breathing, and again in the evening if you've been sitting a lot. Progress by circling without holding the wall, but only when you feel stable. Now we hit number 3, and this is where the system gets quietly profound. Because this movement isn't about strength or flexibility. It's about proprioception, your body's ability to know where it is in space. The movement is called Katashi Baransu, or single leg balance. You stand on one leg, that's it. You stand on your right leg for 30 seconds, then your left leg for 30 seconds. Arms out for balance if you need, or hold a wall with one finger. Eyes open. You do this twice a day. And here's why it matters more than almost anything else. Balance is the first physical capacity you lose as you age, and it's the one most directly linked to your independence. Strength matters, flexibility matters, but balance is what keeps you off the ground when you trip on a rug, step off a curb wrong, or reach for something on a high shelf. When your balance goes, everything goes. Falls lead to fractures. Fractures lead to immobility. Immobility leads to decline. The cascade is brutal and fast. And balance is trainable. Your nervous system can relearn how to stabilize you, even in your 70s and 80s, but only if you challenge it. Regularly, research from neurology and aging labs around the world has consistently shown that inability to balance on one leg for at least 10 seconds is a strong predictor of early mortality. In some studies, people who couldn't hold a single leg stance had nearly double the risk of death over the next decade compared to those who could. The reasons are complex, but part of it is that balance reflects the integrity of multiple systems at once. Your inner ear, your vision, your muscle strength, your nervous system coordination. When balance fails, it's often a sign that many systems are struggling, and the intervention is cheap and immediate. Stand on one leg every day. That's the protocol. I had a client named Margaret, 77, a retired librarian, who had fallen 3 times in the previous year. She was terrified and had started using a walker, even though she didn't physically need one yet. I tested her balance. She couldn't stand on one leg for even 5 seconds without grabbing for support. I had her practice single leg balance every morning, starting with just holding the wall and lifting 1 foot an inch off the ground for 10 seconds. Every week she'd try to add a few seconds. By the end of 2 months, she was balancing for 30 seconds on each leg without touching anything. Her confidence came roaring back. She ditched the walker. She started taking walks in her neighborhood again. Balance gave her back her life. The protocol is this. Stand next to a wall or sturdy chair. Shift your weight onto your right leg and lift your left foot a few inches off the ground. Hold for 30 seconds, or as long as you can without wobbling too much. If you need to touch the wall, that's fine. Use 1 finger for light support, not your whole hand. After 30 seconds, switch legs. Repeat the sequence twice. Do this every morning after hip circles and again in the evening. Progress by reducing how much you touch the wall, then by trying it with your eyes closed for advanced work, but only if you feel safe. This is the movement that builds neurological resilience. Your brain is learning to keep you upright, and that learning is protective in ways you can't see until you don't fall. Now we arrive at number 2, and this is the movement that surprises everyone because it feels absurdly simple but has an outsized impact. It's called Kakado Otoshi, or heel drops. You stand with your feet hip-width apart, rise up onto your toes, hold for 1 second, then drop your heels back down with a light impact. You do this 20 times in a row. Takes about 40 seconds. And what this does is bone magic. After menopause for women, and after about age 65 for men, bone density begins to decline. Your skeleton starts losing calcium faster than it can rebuild, and bones become brittle. Osteoporosis is silent until you fracture, and by then the damage is severe. The pharmaceutical approach is medication, bisphosphonates that slow bone loss, but they come with side effects and they don't build new bone. The mechanical approach is impact. Your bones respond to stress by becoming stronger, denser, more resilient. But the stress has to be the right kind. Not jarring, not pounding that wrecks your joints, but controlled, repetitive, weight-bearing impact that signals your body to reinforce the skeleton. Heel drops deliver that signal. When you drop your heels, the impact travels up through your legs, hips, and spine. Your bones receive a microstressor, and in response, they lay down new calcium matrix. Do this daily, and over months, your bone density improves. There's research from bone health studies in Japan and Europe showing that regular heel drops, combined with adequate calcium and vitamin D, can slow or even reverse bone loss in postmenopausal women and older men. In some analyses, people who did heel drops daily for 6 months showed measurable increases in bone density in the hips and lumbar spine. This is huge. Stronger bones mean lower fracture risk, and lower fracture risk means you keep moving, keep living, keep thriving. I had a client named Barbara, 69, who had been diagnosed with osteopenia, the precursor to osteoporosis. Her doctor put her on medication, but she wanted to try movement first. I taught her heel drops and had her do them every morning. She also cleaned up her diet, added more protein and greens, and made sure she was getting sunlight for vitamin D. After 1 year, her bone density scan showed improvement in her hips. Her doctor reduced her medication dose and told her to keep doing what she was doing. Barbara told me the heel drops felt like nothing, but she trusted the process, and the process worked. The protocol is this: stand with your feet hip-width apart near a wall or counter if you want light support for balance. Rise up onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels as high as you can. Hold for 1 second. Then drop your heels back down with a light but deliberate impact. Not a slam, but a controlled drop that you feel travel up your legs. Do this 20 times in a row. If you feel unstable, hold the wall with one hand. Do this every morning after single leg balance. If you have severe osteoporosis or joint pain, check with your doctor first. But for most people over 60, this is safe and profoundly effective. You're not jumping or running. You're just reminding your bones that they still have work to do. And now we arrive at number 1, the movement that sits at the heart of this entire system, the one that changes how your brain talks to your legs. And it's the biggest reason Japanese seniors fall so much less than Americans. It's called tandem aruki, or tightrope walking. You walk in a straight line, heel to toe, as if you're walking on a narrow beam. You take 10 steps forward, then turn around and take 10 steps back. You do this twice a day and it takes 90 seconds. That's all. But here's what it does. Most falls happen not because you're weak, but because your brain loses the ability to coordinate your legs quickly and precisely. You step on an uneven surface, your foot doesn't adjust in time, and down you go. Tandem walking forces your brain to integrate information from your eyes, your inner ear, and the sensors in your feet and ankles, all in real time. It retrains the communication pathways between your nervous system and your muscles. It teaches you to place your feet deliberately, to shift your weight smoothly, to catch yourself before you stumble. There's a mountain of research from fall prevention studies showing that gait training, specifically tandem walking and narrow base walking, dramatically reduces fall risk in older adults. In some trials, people who practice tandem walking daily for 8 weeks cut their fall rates by nearly half. The mechanism is neuroplasticity. Your brain can rewire itself at any age if you give it the right stimulus, and tandem walking is one of the most efficient stimuli for balance and coordination. I worked with a man named Edward, 75, a retired engineer who had fallen 4 times in the past 18 months. He was becoming a shut-in because he was scared to leave his house. I taught him tandem walking and had him practice every morning in his hallway, heel to toe, 10 steps forward, 10 steps back, twice through. At first, he wobbled like crazy and had to touch the wall constantly, but he stuck with it. Within 3 weeks, he could do the full sequence without touching the wall. Within 2 months, he was walking around his neighborhood again. He told me the tandem walking gave him back his confidence because he could feel his balance improving day by day. The feedback was immediate and empowering. The protocol is this: find a straight path, your hallway, or a line on the floor. Stand at one end. Place your right heel directly in front of your left toes, so they're touching or nearly touching. Step forward, placing your left heel directly in front of your right toes. Keep going, heel to toe, for 10 steps. If you wobble, pause and reset. If you need to, hold the wall with one hand, but try to use just a fingertip for light balance. When you reach the end, turn around carefully and walk back the same way. 10 steps. Do this sequence twice. That's 1 session. Do it every morning after heel drops and again in the evening if you can. Progress by walking without touching the wall, then by doing it with your arms crossed over your chest, then by trying it with your eyes closed, but only when you're very stable. This movement is challenging, and that's the point. Challenge builds capacity. Your brain is learning to keep you safe, and that learning is cumulative. Every day you practice, you're laying down new neural pathways that will catch you the next time you stumble. So, here's the full system. 7 movements, 10 minutes every morning. Toe exercises to wake up your feet. Shoulder circles to keep your upper body open and mobile. Belly breathing to stabilize your core and calm your nervous system. Hip circles to maintain the joints that carry you. Single leg balance to train proprioception and to prevent falls. Heel drops to build bone density and skeletal strength. Tandem walking to integrate your brain and body into a coordinated, responsive system. Each movement is simple. None of them require equipment, a gym, or even much space. But together they create a compound effect that reshapes how you age. This is why Japanese elders move differently. Not because of genetics, but because of daily practice. They treat movement as non-negotiable, like brushing their teeth. And the results are visible in their posture, their gait, their independence, their longevity. Here's the part that matters most. You can start today, right now. You don't need to master all 7 at once. Pick one, just one. Do the toe exercise tonight before bed. Tomorrow morning, add the shoulder circles. By the end of the week, you'll have the full sequence, and by the end of the month, you'll feel different. Your balance will be sharper. Your joints will move more freely. Your confidence will be higher. And 6 months from now, you'll look back and realize you've built something durable, a practice that's keeping you strong, stable, and free. The alternative is doing nothing and hoping your body holds together on its own. But hope is not a strategy, and your body is not static. It's either getting stronger or weaker, more stable or more fragile. The direction it goes depends entirely on what you do every single day. These 7 movements are your lever. They're how you tip the balance in your favor. One more thing. These exercises work best when you stack them with other fundamentals. You need protein to build muscle, at least 1 gram per kilogram of body weight daily. You need vitamin D for bone health, either from sunlight or supplements. You need adequate sleep so your nervous system can consolidate the new motor patterns you're learning. And you need consistency. 10 minutes every morning is infinitely more powerful than an hour once a week. Your body responds to rhythm, to repetition, to showing up. So make it ritual. Tie it to something you already do. Right after you wake up, before you check your phone, before you make coffee. Movements first. Let that be the rule. And if you miss a day, don't spiral. Just start again the next morning. The compound effect is forgiving. It rewards return, not perfection. I want to leave you with this. Aging is not a disease. It's not something to fight or fear. It's a process. And like any process, you can navigate it well or poorly. The difference is knowledge and action. You now have the knowledge. 7 movements practiced by millions of people in a culture that values longevity and functionality. The action part is up to you. Will you try this? Will you give yourself 10 minutes every morning for the next 30 days and see what changes? Or will you scroll past this and forget, and then wonder 6 months from now why your balance is worse, why your joints hurt more, why getting up from a chair feels harder? The gap between those 2 futures is a single decision, and the decision is made new every morning. So here's my question for you. Which of these 7 movements are you going to start with, and why? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know where you're beginning, because every journey starts with 1 movement, and yours starts now.